I'm Elliot. I'm the guy that makes the Super Contraption game. I spend my life on it. I'll be working on it for another 65,000 years. And why? What's the point of it all? Well, ironically, there is no point. The point is sort of just general creativity, do whatever you want. So this video is going to be me sort of explaining conceptually what this is all about. Some of the things you can do with it. It's going to be a real brief video. So if you're like me, I'm 31. I'm an old man. So I'm already an adult. And I, like science, and I like programming, obviously, and I like playing around. So what I do in this pointless sandbox is I run around with this dude. I parachute off stuff. I drive around in vehicles, and I enjoy myself in that way. What I've also discovered over the past couple years putting these things together is that a lot of younger folks really like to play. And I feel as though a lot of those younger folks really have a mind towards science and physics. And if you're one of those younger folks who's into science, well, then that's great because it is pretty much you guys that keeps me working on this so hard. I do not make money. I barely make enough money for rent. But regardless of that, why I keep working on this is because if you are some young person who's into science right now, and you're sort of stretching your creative muscles messing around in Super Contraption, then maybe in, 10 or 20 years, you're going to be some boy or girl who goes into the science field and does something totally awesome and life-changing, and maybe you had some idea from this little dinky little Super Contraption game. So that's kind of my whole goal. So what am I talking about with creativity and pointlessness? Well, here's what I mean. Okay, here we have what you might call a Rube Goldberg machine. It's a machine in which there's, no point, and it's typically Rube Goldberg machines are considered like highly complicated to perform a very medial task. So I've got this tube, the ball rolls down, goes into this little spinny thing, spins it over, dumps it in here, brings it down to here. So you've got this whole machine, and this camera's going to follow it. You've got this whole machine, and the only thing the machine really is doing is just moving that ball from there to there. A great example of a Rube Goldberg machine. Well, I don't know if you're a younger person, you might not remember, but in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the father scientist, he had all these Rube Goldberg machines all over his place. Oh, it was great. Here's a bunch of metal spheres in a weightless environment that are magnetically attracted to this electromagnet. I can turn it off, and they just go flying, turn it back on, and they're going to come back. I can pick it up and move it around. I can just sort of play with magnetism, kind of just for the weird silliness of it. Here's a bunch of people hanging out. There, I don't know, getting ready to go on a barbecue maybe? Yeah, a barbecue. And you've got this guy on Mars, he can hop in the chair and drive around, and you can see he's got the low gravity. So if, maybe you want to go to Mars and see what it's going to be like, and then get Elon Musk a short list of things that he maybe hasn't considered, I think that you're likely to discover them here. Here's a bunch of people in jail. Yeah, I put them in there. They probably did something terrible. Here is a piston-powered catapult. Pew! Yeah, see? You see what I mean? How it's pointless. I mean, there is just no point. But at the same time, I don't know, I'm getting something from it. I'm getting enjoyment. I'm getting to, I guess I don't know. I don't know what it is, and I made it. NASA recently, a few years ago, sent a probe, which I believe recently landed and extracted some materials from an asteroid, which was much smaller than this one is conceptually. But here we go. Here's a guy here, and you can be just as cool as NASA. A dude on an extremely low gravity, kind of has the texture of an asteroid, and he jumped with the same amount of jump force he usually uses, only now. And you can tell these little particles that are whipping by to indicate my movement speed. You can tell that one jump is, he's really going for it, because there's not a lot of gravity on asteroids, not a lot of air pressure either. Okay, so what is the actual point? Again, there isn't one. Some people like to model things. They don't care about the physics. They want to model something. They want to express themselves creatively in that way. Some people, and I maybe consider myself more the second person, really just want to mess around and be silly and weird and take the guy and do weird things with him and, throw him in the air and drop the parachute out and that kind of stuff. Some people really like the physics. They want the physics to be real. They want to build a bridge and they want to watch it break. They want to, stick an engine or a jet onto a thing and watch the forces go. Some people want to sort of do experiments where they can have a thought in their mind, hey, what if this, what if that, and then they want to be able to throw it all together. My ultimate goal is that everybody can satisfy all of those needs. I want to make it so that similarly to a more complicated CAD program, you can use it to model stuff. You can use it to model the den. You want to redo your den, you can use it to model that, or at least you will be able to. You want to use it like I'm using it just to play around and be silly, that certainly will be fine. If you want to use it to learn about physics and the difference between how certain objects interact with them, then that should be okay as well. Currently, there's no real feedback on the screen telling you about what's going on within the physics environment. But that's going to change. I'm going to make it so that you can get information about friction levels, forces, and things like this. Potentially even, your science teacher asks you a question, how should this following result happen? In theory, you could put it together, perform the experiment, and then deliver the answer to him or her. My future ambitions for this game is to make it so that the game developers, now not me, I'm the one game developer, but the people who play the game, who build things with it. So there's the people who play the game who look for stuff to play with, and they just want to find stuff to play with and play with it, and that's what they enjoy. And then there are people who actually kind of almost enjoy building the stuff more than playing with the stuff. So there's sort of builders and players, and they're both highly valuable. So my future ambition is that the builders, I'm going to give them game-making type items, so that a builder will not just make a train or make a boat or make whatever, but they'll make a little mini game where they define, here's how it starts, here's how it ends, here's what the rules are, here's where the scores are kept track of, and so on and so forth. Additionally, an ambition is that, like I briefly said, I'm going to make it so it gives you more scientific output about what's going on. So for example, when I jump with the guy, it would tell me, if I wanted it to, it would tell me what his current velocity is, it would tell me what the Newton meters of force coming out of that rocket are, precisely, and how much his weight is, and how much the atmospheric drag is, and all these things I want to know. It'll tell me how much air resistance is that parachute actually collecting, if I want to know it. A lot of people want to do a lot of different things, but I can't have the screen just filled with all these menu options because it's way too confusing. So I have to sort of pack some of that stuff away. Finally, what else do I have on my list of stuff? Okay, the final ambition before this video ends for what's coming in the future will be the ability to 3D print the stuff that you make. So for example, let's say you made this rocket platform and you happen to be someone who has a 3D printer in your home, or you know someone with a 3D printer. I'm going to write a bunch of code that'll take this model, turn it into a 3D printing compatible object. You'll be able to ship it right to your printer and print it out. Now obviously if you 3D print this, the rocket's not going to work anymore. The servo's not going to move and the hover pads aren't likely to work unless there's been major changes in 3D printing that I'm unaware of. Likely these parts aren't going to work, but the point is if you wanted to model something on your phone and you can't use your computer because you don't know how, in theory you'd be able to use this to model it and ship it out. And that's it for now.